We have all been there, sitting with a journal, writing down everything we want: more money, more freedom, more love. We close our eyes, visualize our best version, and for a second it feels like that perfect life is just around the corner. But then days, months, or even years pass and nothing changes. You're in the same house, with the same anxieties and the same bills. The quiet thought starts to creep in. Maybe I'm not trying hard enough. Maybe I need to change who I am to deserve this. This is the trap of the endless self-improvement loop, trying to raise your vibration or reprogram your subconscious just to force reality to bend to your will. But have you noticed how exhausting it is? Let's be honest, you're tired of the spiritual hustle, the endless journaling, the affirmations, the desperate attempts to hold a high vibration while your bank account and heart feel empty. You've been told you are a co-creator, but most of the time it feels like you're just exhausted architect trying to build a castle out of sand while the tide is coming in. But what if the struggle itself is the signal that you're moving in the wrong direction? The true reason it feels like a struggle is simple. You are trying to use your ego to fix the problems created by your ego. It's like trying to wash a window with a dirty cloth. No matter how hard you scrub, you're just moving the smudge around. And you call this manifestation. This kind of manifestation is an illusion. It's just the ego dressed up in spiritual clothes, trying to control the world. Today we're going to talk about why you aren't manifesting anything, and why that is the best news you've ever heard. Think back to the moment you were born. In those early days, you didn't have a personality. You didn't have a reputation to protect or a career to build. You were simply a burst of pure, unconditioned life force. As a child, you moved toward things not because they were productive, but because they resonated with your very cells. You were drawn to the rhythm of music, the texture of the soil, or the way light filtered through a window. This wasn't a choice, it was a magnetic pull. We can call it a blueprint, a highest timeline in its rawest form. Here is an easy way to understand it. Think of your blueprint as an oak seed. It doesn't need to learn how to become a tree, it already knows. Inside that tiny seed, there is already a code. It contains the data of the height it will reach, the shape of its leaves, and its strength against the wind. It's not a project to become a pine tree, it's a project to become the most magnificent oak possible. This is your internal architecture. It is the unique code of your most authentic life, the raw potential you were born with into this body. Your highest timeline, on the other hand, is that oak seed actually growing in the perfect soil with the right amount of sun and rain. It is the path where your life unfolds with perfect efficiency and grace because you are growing exactly as you were designed to. When you are on this timeline, your external reality is in total resonance with your internal code. You aren't swimming against the current, you are the current. When you are born, there is no separation between you and your path. You don't think about what to do, you simply are the movement of life. Your body and mind are perfectly tuned instruments, ready to play a melody that belongs only to you. It's a state of total alignment, where every action is an effortless expression of your internal code. But then something begins to blur this connection. A layer of noise starts to settle over the natural music of your life, like static on a radio. As we grow, we start picking up all sorts of static. For instance, the static of approval, doing what makes your father proud instead of what feels aligned for you. Or the static of comparison, wanting the ideal life you saw on a screen or in a magazine, which has nothing to do with your own blueprint. This collection of jagged, noisy frequencies, the voices of your parents, the fear of not being enough, the pressure to conform, acts like static on a radio. It creates a constant background hum of anxiety in your nervous system. This is precisely when the ego forms. Your ego isn't some evil force. It's essentially a bundle of social programs, childhood trauma, and expectations from parents and society. These social programs and childhood traumas aren't just thoughts. They are a tight knot of tension in your body. They act like a GPS that has been hacked. It's constantly recalculating, taking you through back alleys and dead ends, further and further away from your natural line. And slowly, the clarity begins to fade. When we follow the ego's script, we drift away from our natural potential, the optimal path that was encoded into our body and mind at birth. We start trying to force the oak to grow like a pine tree because that's what society rewards. And as long as you are listening to that noise, you can't hear the melody of your highest timeline. You start to think that you are this noise, but you are actually the one who has the power to tune it out. To do that, you need to shatter the illusion of creation. Any thought that says, "I created this with my intention," is a subtle ego trap. You don't pull things into your life like a magician performing a trick. Instead, as you clear the mental fog of childhood conditioning and social pressure, you naturally gravitate back toward your highest timeline. When you are on that line, life begins to look like magic. Things fall into place, synchronicities happen, the right doors open and the right people appear. But it's not magic, it's just the natural state of a life in alignment. This isn't a new discovery. This understanding is the quiet gold that runs through every ancient wisdom tradition. Ancient traditions spoke about manifestation, but they didn't teach us how to be magicians who pull money out of the thin air. Long before we had terms like social programming or static, the sages were pointing at the exact same truth, that manifestation isn't about doing more, but about interfering less. The Buddha, for instance, wasn't just talking about philosophy, he was describing the static of desire, the way our clinging creates the very suffering that pushes us off our path. The Taoists took it even further with the concept of wu wei, or not doing. They understood that the life moves perfectly on its own. Things happen not because you control them, but because you finally stop getting in the way. And the Upanishads remind us of the ultimate shift in perspective. We don't manifest the world as if it were outside of us. We are the level of reality from which the world arises. But if we are the very source of reality, why do we feel so powerless? The answer lies in the fundamental nature of the ego. While your blueprint is rooted in wholeness, which is abundant in nature, the ego lives exclusively in a state of not enough. It is a parasite of lack. This constant sense of deficiency is what convinces you that you need to become someone else or do something extraordinary just to deserve the life you want. But the truth isn't about changing the life of the person you think you are. It's about realizing you aren't who you thought you were in the first place. You are not the hustler trying to survive. You are the consciousness that the ancient sages were talking about. This is why spiritual growth isn't about learning new techniques to bend reality. It's about unlearning. It's a clearing process. It's stripping away the dictate of ego. You begin to see that the voices in your head, the internalized demands of your parents or society, are not your own. They are just echoes in the static. It's releasing the programs. You realize that when you stop acting out of fear or the search for approval, you stop interfering with the natural flow of your life. It's the shift of identity. This is the ultimate move. You step down from being the architect, the exhausted ego trying to build a life from scratch, and become the observer, the consciousness through which life finally flows, unobstructed and authentic. And it is in this exact moment of stepping down that you encounter what can be called the miracle of giving up. The thing is that, in essence, manifestation in the popular sense is just the ego trying to bribe the universe. It's a transaction based on fear. But the truth, the kind of truth that changes the air in the room, is that you don't need to add anything to your life to be on your path. You need to subtract. When you stop trying to bend reality, something strange happens. You start to feel the highest timeline pulling you back like a magnetic north. It doesn't feel like a win for the ego. There is no pride in it. It feels like a surrender. It's the sensation of heavy rusted armor finally falling off your shoulders. You realize with a profound sense of relief that you aren't the author of the movie desperately trying to write the next scene. You are the screen upon which the masterpiece is already playing. The shift happens when you stop looking at the world through the eyes of the lacking ego and start seeing through the eyes of the abundant consciousness. When you stop bargaining with the universe for a better future, the immense potential of the present finally comes into focus. It's a shift in perception, in the lenses through which you perceive the world. You cannot force the universe to fulfill a work order. You cannot bend the universe to your will for one simple reason. You are the universe, experiencing itself through a human form. How can you bargain with what you already are? You begin to recognize that from the very moment of your birth, there was a path laid out for you. Not a rigid cold destiny, but a highest timeline. It is the optimal expression of your unique life force, a path of least resistance where your potential meets reality in perfect harmony. The ego didn't build this path, it only caused you to deviate from it. And so by clearing the static, you don't create a new destination, you simply finally come home. This is the essence of real alignment. The paradox is this: when you stop trying to control reality, reality begins to change. You stop trying to pull a better life toward you and realize that the life you are living right now, when lived with clarity and depth, is exactly what was intended for you. When you clear the ghosts of the old programs of ego, you don't create success, you allow it. Suddenly, you find yourself in the right place, saying the right thing, meeting the right person. It feels like magic, but it's actually just the absence of interference. You realize you never needed to become a better version of yourself. You just needed to stop pretending to be the version everyone else wanted. You aren't manifesting a new life. You are finally, for the first time, inhabiting the one you were always meant to have. And when you stop fighting with life, life stops fighting with you. And then, maybe for the first time, you actually start to live.